Hey loves, it's Naomi from Sleepy House Healing. Welcome to your new moon in Cancer reading. I have some messages. I just pulled a few things, but I also am going to pull some more. Welcome to this new moon. I hope that all of you are really starting to integrate the lessons that you've received from eclipse season. I had a really intense one, and I know that a lot of my friends and people in my community have told me that they've had a really intense eclipse season as well. And so I think for this new moon, and I would say personally for me, most new moons, I rest. I journal, I receive information, and sometimes I may work on loosening my grip on things, right? So letting go is something we act like it's like one time, but actually letting go is a process. So I say starting to let go of things, turning over, what we are going through and seeing it through, hopefully another perspective, being able to kind of I don't want to say detach, but separate ourselves a little bit from our circumstances and just have some self-reflection. I'm not a big ritual person for new moons personally, but if that's what you're interested in, I would say right now, it's a good time to do some ritual work if you're feeling it, if you have the energy at the moment. But if you're not feeling it, I just want to give you permission that you can be a practicing witch and you don't have to, every single full and new moon, do some complicated ritual. I really just need to rest, and to me that is ritual. I might take a nice bath and soak and care for myself in that way. Stir my big old cauldron. If you're feeling like there's something you want to start letting go of, I feel like new moons are great also for cord cutting. I'm going to be doing some of that kind of work myself soon. And last night I went out to visit a friend, and before I left, you'll notice, first of all, that I'm not in my usual habitat. I'm at my grandmother's house. The AC in my house broke. And so me and my son are here at my grandma's, and last night I went to visit a friend, and before I left, I pulled a card, and I was like, here's going to be the card, a card for my new moon, and collectively, what do I need to know tonight to kind of start, receiving, opening myself up to messages for the collective. And I got death, and I know that it seems like death is a reoccurring card, and I think it's just 2020. There's a lot of things dying off. There's a lot of us transmuting, going through portals. And so, if things are dying off for you as well, you feel certain relationships falling away, or even just our mindsets drastically changing about our environment and how we're moving through the world. You're not alone. I'm right here with you. And I feel like even in death, there's so much of it that's not a choice. We don't really get a choice about when we die. It just, when it happens, it happens. And it's surrender, right? So even if you are being confronted with choices right now, just remembering to also just surrender to what is meant to be. It doesn't mean give up your control, let somebody else make the choices. Just surrendering to what you know is the medicine you need right now, or what the right choices, and just learning to let things fall away and into place and out of place. It's not easy, but that's what's here. So I also pulled Lavender Aragonite from the Crystal Oracle deck, and I'm pretty sure we got this recently. And again, it comes back to our environment, healing our environment. Is your environment nourishing you, or do you need a change of space and place? I feel energized when I get to move from my home to another place where I'm not as frequently, right? So even coming here, I feel energized because it's a different environment. The damn dirty dishes aren't mine. I'll wash them, but they're not mine. So I feel that a change of setting is really important sometimes when we are feeling stuck in a rut. And I noticed that last night as well when I went to my friend's house. I was just like, oh, it feels so good to be out here in the country in another place where I'm not as responsible for things. I'm always responsible for my child. I'm always responsible for my behavior, but I'm not responsible for all of, the house, the chores and things. So there's a lot of reasons other than the AC of why being in my home isn't the most fun right now. And after, while COVID is happening still and unfolding, I mean, maybe this isn't possible for you, but I do want to encourage you to see what is possible. Can you take a walk? Can you visit a park? Can you go at a time that's off hours? So that's what I've been trying to do, is go on walks late at night. I'm very fortunate that in my area that's a pretty safe thing to do. I will go take walks around midnight, which is late. But it feels great because nobody's around. It's very peaceful. It's very quiet, and it's dark. It's comforting. That is my self-care right now. It doesn't cost anything, and I get a change of, scenery, and I get to move around and kind of move some things through my body that I'm processing. So anytime that I find myself in a death kind of energy, I must move. I must dance. I must force myself outside if that's available to you, because being stationary, it just sits here, and it's hard. I just want to mention, it is hard to get up and go when maybe you have low energy because of mental health stuff. Maybe you have a physical reason that it's difficult to do that. Maybe you're not able-bodied in the way that I am. So obviously, I just want within what is reasonable for you and your body. I find that movement is the last thing I want to do, but it is the medicine that I need when I feel stagnant, when I feel that death energy creeping in. But what relief, death is it's like a relief, it's like if you've been white knuckling a situation, a person, a relationship, being able to just kind of go through the death portal and just being like, I give the fuck up, I'm done with this. I'm releasing control, whether we like that or not, there's relief there. So I hope that you can find that relief. I want to pull a card specifically for Cancers, as it is a new moon in Cancer, and just see what comes forward. So my Chiron day just happened, and my Chiron's in Cancer. And I'm not an astrologer, as I'll always say that until I study astrology, but I'm not an astrologer by any means. I'm a tarot reader, but for Cancer, we pulled the Three of Swords. I bring up Chiron because it's the wounded healer archetype. And the Three of Swords, traditionally, we really see it as heartbreak, just devastation, wounding, right? But we know that swords aren't really about the heart. There's a mental component here. Sure, it can be deep emotional pain, but to me it's like trauma, right? Revisiting trauma, being re-traumatized, that's what I feel here. And so Cancer, especially having my Chiron in Cancer, my wounds are at home. It could be the mother wound for some of us. And I physically have wounds from home where I experienced, when I was younger, a house fire that took my home. And I've never felt home in the same way since. This is why my podcast, Ramblin' Back Home, is about home. That is the thing that I am forever searching for and creating within myself. Not a physical place, but creating within myself. Okay? When you're moving through the Three of Swords, it can be really hard to to have that home within yourself, right? If you've ever experienced homelessness, if you've ever experienced a house fire or just trauma at home, which most of us have, in some way or another, the home wound is real. But especially when it comes to our own mind, protecting our energy, protecting our spiritual home, I'm here with you. I'm here with you because, it's heavy. It's really heavy. So if you are feeling that, if you're feeling the wounds around home, or you're a Cancer and you're feeling this in your atmosphere in general, I just love you. I need you to know that you're not alone. We're in this together. I want to pull a card for those of us also in our Saturn return. And again, I'm being a little selfish because I'm in my Saturn return. It's kicking my ass. On top of all the other transits and retrogrades and everything that's happening. If you don't know what a Saturn return is, it is when Saturn returns to the position where it was when you were born. And since it's, it's like an outer planet, it takes a little longer. It takes like a year. It happens around now when you're 20. I'm 29. And you can look it up. But, okay. Those of us in our Saturn return. Interesting. Ace of Pentacles. I'm seeing all this abundance. And this is kind of how the cards just they don't speak to what you're feeling. And I just want to name my lineage here. Lindsay Mack is who really opened my eyes to the fact that cards are energies present, and they are not so much about, I'm going to feel like this, it's going to feel like that. I don't feel abundant right now. A lot of us don't. We're dealing with a lot of scarcity. We're dealing with a lot of recalibration that is deeply uncomfortable because we're evolving as a society and personally. There's layers to the bullshit that we're going through. And I shouldn't say bullshit because I think this card is really indicative of what is happening here. A seed is being planted. This spark is being ignited. And as we know, I say this all the time with the aces, but especially the Ace of Pentacles, because the pentacles are about the body, about the land, they're about the earth. To me, there's so much more than, abundance and wealth or material, right? They're way more than that. But we know when we plant a seed and we water it and we give it everything it needs, sun, you're still not going to see fruit until later. You're not going to see results right away, but you're doing the work. That's the thing. That's what your Saturn return is all about. It's spiritual adulting, and I'm sure other people have said this as well. But Jeff Henshaw is who told me where my Chiron was in my chart and told me about my Chiron day, which was a couple days ago. And also, he is who says that the Saturn return is about spiritual adulting, and it's so true. It's about leveling up, and I think that's maybe part of why those of us in our Saturn return this past eclipse season with those 3 eclipses rather than 2, it's been extremely confronting. But all of it is here to make us better. All of it is planting the seeds for what we're really meant to be doing, for what's really important for us, redefining our values, and figuring out our path. There's so much on the other side of this death experience. There's so much on the other side of this, mental and, this heartbreak, this contraction. There's so much on the other side. But while you're in it, it doesn't feel good. It really doesn't. And so I think, again, I just want to reiterate that part of the message I got here with the Lavender Aragonite was just to consider your environment. Is it nourishing you? Are there things that you can do that even if you're in an environment that's not nourishing, that's not healthy, that's not working, are there small or, are there changes that you can make that do not overextend you and your energy to make it more not just comfortable, but more conducive for healing, nourishment, and medicine? Is there something that you can do? I know that when I did not have a home, I lived on people's couches, frankly, and sometimes on a mountain in a tent. This was really hard. But the one way I think that I made a home was that I always had my cards. I had, like a crystal in my bra, if I had a bra. I had my backpack, and that was it. And I would make a little sacred space wherever I went that could kind of fit, could be condensed down. Had a little altar cloth, and that was it. The bathtub for me too. I could, if I was in a place where there was water or a bath available, that became a sacred space for me. And so cultivating sacred space within yourself, that's a much larger, longer conversation. It's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, it was so easy. Like, that was so satisfying. No, not really. It was difficult. But while we are still parsing through the lessons of this eclipse season, the hard truths that I know all of us have been smacked with, it's really important. It's really important that we nourish ourselves. It's really important that we eat foods that nourish us. If that's Lucky Charms, I am not going to sit here and tell you no, okay? For me, if I eat Lucky Charms, I will feel horrible. They're delicious, but they don't serve me because I am intolerant to the ingredients. So it's really difficult because, if you have any kind of sentimental associations with food, which I talk about this on the podcast, I definitely do, it can be difficult. And even me being here at my Nana's house, I really want to eat the stuff my family's eating because it's delicious. But I also know that I will feel terrible physically, and then I'm not going to be in a space where I can do the personal healing that I need to do for myself. So finding ways to satisfy the cravings that you have, and I don't even just mean about food, but also with other forms of nourishment. So I tend to look towards music, or I tend to have really tasty tea that I know is good for me and tastes great. I really just want to drink soda, and it's fine. If you can stomach soda and that doesn't make you feel bad, I am not going to shame you about that. I'm just jealous of you, frankly. I would love to drink some Dr. Pepper, but I would not feel good. So finding ways to nourish ourselves that are not fleeting, right? That it's not just instant gratification. It's something that we can hang on to for the rest of the day, or in my case, weeks. I will feel better if I do not engage with sugar and gluten. I hate it. But anyway, I pulled 2 more cards just for kind of where we're going, what is happening. So I have the 7 of Coins reversed, and I have the Queen of Wands reversed. 2 reversals. Okay, more Pentacles. So I like how on this is the Victoria Regina deck. Is one of my first decks, actually. I got it at Barnes & Noble when I was a teenager. And the clocks here are so great because I kind of see that Saturnian vibe, right? Time. And I do think of the material world, but I also think of how time is a construct. And how with the 7 of Coins, especially in the reverse position, I believe we are maybe feeling stuck, or not feeling stuck, but maybe there is that energy of stuckness. Where do we go from here? Logically, what's next? Are we waiting on something external to happen so that we can move forward? Or is there something we can do to get things going? This is difficult because a lot of times we may feel like we've exhausted every avenue. We may feel like we have searched our depths. We have communicated and tried to find a job, to fix a relationship, to communicate with a family member that's been difficult to reach, whatever. We feel like we've done everything, and maybe you have. But this card kind of invites us to consider, I think, just to take a break from trying, but also to realize that there is nothing external that is going to change, most likely. And that's difficult. But if we wait, if we sit here looking at the clock, waiting, when is this going to change? When are things going to open back up? When is life going to be normal again, right? Allergic to that phrase, but I'm hearing it. I'm sure you are too. If we're sitting waiting for that other person to change, it's never going to happen. It's very unlikely that it's going to happen. And from there, we come back to our choices. We come back to the Queen of Wands reversed. And so I'm just getting this message that there is this invitation to step into your power, to really go there, to really listen to your own inner voice and level up when it comes to all of the things that you actually value, but something is holding you back. What is holding you back? What is there to be cleared? And again, the new moon is a perfect time to figure out what needs to be cleared. And just judging on the other cards, judging on the moon being in Cancer, I believe what may need to be cleared revolves around home. It revolves around our expectations of home. It revolves around this death energy and our environment. Is our environment not conducive for us to be our truest selves? To really fight for where we want to be going? Other people's expectations? What is it? It's going to be different for everyone. But it's time to figure out what it is and figure out a plan to remove the block. Again, letting go is not just over and done with. It's not like, all right, I see that this is the issue. I'm just going to let go of it. I'm just going to let go of my trauma. I'm just going to let go of the situation with a friend that broke my heart. I'm just going to let it go. It's so easy. No, it's never like that. It's very much not like that. You might have many symbolic acts, many rituals, many nights of dream work and reflection and journaling and all kinds of work to do to let go. And so I just want to ask you to loosen your grip, assess the situations that you're in, assess your environment, and start loosening your grip in the way that you know how. Cord cutting is one way. Just deciding is another. Making up your mind and then figuring out how. We all have limiting beliefs. Everyone. We've all been conditioned by a white supremacist patriarchal society. We've all, experienced the conditioning of capitalism. We have. It's in there, especially if you grew up in the United States, right? Or in Europe, where you've been through your developing years here. It's in there. You have limiting beliefs. You have things that you have to unlearn. It's hard. It's not easy. We have to acknowledge that they're there, acknowledge that they're a problem, and then we do the work. Then we loosen our grip. And that's going to look different for everyone, but you got this. One thing that always helps, and maybe it's just the writer in me, but writing about it, speaking it. Sometimes speaking something to a friend can clarify so much. It can clarify so much. Speaking to a therapist and really having to retell a situation or your feelings, it can make you realize what you actually feel. Because we have all these conversations with ourselves in our heads. I really think that we create a story here, but when we have to give it to someone else to be received, it changes. So I noticed this in the last dream circle that I attended, and I really love this about this facilitator, Vanessa. I'll add her name and how to find her in the notes, but she had me read and tell a dream, because we had very few of us that showed up. We had I think 5 dreamers to show up to the circle, and I'm not giving anything away from anybody else. This was normally what happens in dream circle stays there, but this is my experience, right? This was me telling my dream, and this was some real wisdom that I gleaned here. So I had a short dream. So I read it from my journal, and then she had me tell it with my eyes closed as a story, which is the best way to do it, right? I know this, but I don't know. I was hanging on to my journal like I needed to, because the dream happened a long time ago. And it changed so much. There were more details. It was an actual narrative, whereas what I had written down, factually, as factual as you can get with a dream, that stuff was true. But when I actually crafted it into a storytelling experience, there was so much more there. Even if when you're retelling a dream or you're relaying a situation or a feeling, if it morphs, that's okay. There is a reason for how you're telling it. There's medicine in the way that it morphs. So writing things down, talking it out with someone else. And if you don't have a person where you can relay a story to, you can just create a video for yourself and never send it. This is something I do, as DIY and kind of, not professional these kind of videos can be. You should see the ones I have on my phone that I have something I have to get off my chest, and so I'll put it there. It's not safe. I don't feel safe to put it anywhere else. And I have figured out so much about myself, about my situation, about my life, about my true feelings, my true values, by telling it to somebody, my future self, who's not going to judge it, right? So even if you are not someone who is, interested in writing, or someone who is, who has a wide network of people you can tell your deepest feelings to, you do probably have a device where you can record. So since you're watching this. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful. I love you. We've got this. Yeah, I think I'm good. Normally I would have pulled another few cards, but the message is here. And so I don't keep a lot of rocks, but it's come up a few times and I'm feeling it. But I also wanted to mention that, adding 3 and 7, we get number 10, Wheel of Fortune. We didn't get any major arcana. Oh, yeah, we did. Death. We got death, but just feeling that Wheel of Fortune is also kind of in the mix here in this reading. When I add those 2 digits together, I just did that last time with our was it full moon reading or reading for the month? I'm not sure, but anyway, Wheel of Fortune, I feel that we all are deeply in that space, but it's not one where we're moving through it. I think this is just where we live right now. 2020 is such a Wheel of Fortune vibe. Even though it's technically an emperor year, when we look at the numerology of the year, I think that it's relevant because all I can do is look at what is in front of me and deal with things as they come. And if I get too caught up in what's ahead or look too far in the past, it's overwhelming. So, again, this is part of why when I see this card, I think of environment. What's right here that I can address right now to make my space more conducive for nourishment and healing. All right. If you're new to my readings, I would love for you to check out my work on Patreon at Sleepy House Healing, patreon.com/sleepyhousehealing. My Instagram is also Sleepy House Healing, and I'm on TikTok. But on TikTok, I'm just Mullet Power, and I make a lot of posts that have nothing to do with tarot or with magic at all. But I would love to see you there. And yeah, y'all have, for this cycle, I really do. I hold you all in my heart. And yeah, have a great new moon. If all you feel like doing is resting, that is fine. That's what I'm going to be doing. Bye.